Alright, so here we have the last servant from the Case Files event that I need to cover. And I feel like people really do forget about our boy Kerry over here. Like, as a single target arts assassin, he's very, very good, and he just never really seems to get talked about. I mean, I wonder why that is. Maybe there's another single target arts assassin that steals the spotlight from him. I can't really place my finger on it, but I wonder if there's another servant out there like that. I wonder why he gets forgotten about. But for people that don't have that mysterious servant, Kerry's going to function as a very, very good single target arts assassin that has a little bit of party utility, but for the most part, he's going to basically be a beat stick with like that slight utility, like kind of, you know. But if you enjoy daily FGO content, I upload videos on FGO every single day. Be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. If you want to go that extra mile, you can click that join button and become a channel member. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about our boy Emiya Assassin, or Kerry. And for those of you wondering why we call him Kerry, it's because Kerry is Kiritsugu's nickname in Fate Zero, and if you haven't caught on, Emiya Assassin is Kiritsugu. Like, I don't think I need to explain that, but I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there for like the two people that are like, what? I don't know that. Like, so looking at his hits are kind of insane, bro. Like, 4 hits on 2 quick cards with 25.6% star generation means this dude is going to be a star genning beast. Like, he's going to have absolutely no issues dropping a whole bunch of stars for you and your teammates to play around with. And as an assassin, that's one of their primary roles. Like, do keep in mind that assassins are generally used as star genning servants, and he has a passive skill with his presence concealment. It's like A+, so it's giving 10.5% extra crit star generation. So in all actuality, Kerry's star gen is absolutely bonkers. It is insane. Now his NP gen is a little low, like having not even 50% NP gen with 2 hits on the arts card seems really like low, right? But we do gotta keep in mind that he has 8 hits on his extra attack, and you gotta remember the extra attack is basically like a composite card. So I feel like they're kind of nerfing his actual arts cards to maybe help him out on a Brave Chain, because if you Brave Chain with this dude, that extra attack is going to be dropping so many stars, it's going to generate a really good amount of NP, and then, well, we have his actual NP to talk about, but just spoiler alert, it has a massive amount of hits on it, right? They were clearly playing around with how they wanted to handle Kerry and like all of his different hits, because it's all over the place. Like, his hits are really, really high, and you can see that they're kind of messing around with like, well, how do we like make his hits good but not make them like busted, you know? And they were like playing around with the high hits, but irregardless, it's very, very solid. His hits are very, very good. Now, starting off, we have a very decent first skill. It's nothing super insane, but it is a good start off for him. It's basically just an arts mana burst. He's getting 40% arts performance for 1 turn on a 5-turn cooldown. Honestly, I feel like this is poised to get a buff sometime soon, because while this is very good and it is very helpful because, you know, it's buffing his damage, it's buffing his NP gen, buffing the damage of his NP because his NP is also arts, like all that good stuff gets wrapped into this arts mana burst. The problem is that having like one singular skill effect is very outdated. Usually you want to be doing numerous different things on your different skills to be considered very, very good and competitive against other servants. So him only having this one effect on his first skill is a bit lackluster, but do keep in mind it's still like not a bad buff at all. Like, it's still very, very good. And for most DPS servants, you do want them to have a mana burst in some type of way. So the groundwork for him is there. It's just they need to follow up with like maybe having this be an arts and NP gen buff or an arts and crit star generation buff, because that would just be even crazier for him. Or maybe even just have it be an arts buff, and then for 1 turn it buffs the star weight of all of his arts cards for 1 turn. I think that final buff is the most realistic, and I think that's gonna really help him out if that's what they give him. Now his second skill, very, very solid. It's giving him ignore invincibility for 3 turns, 50% crit damage for 3 turns, all on a 5-turn cooldown. Although he's lowering the other 2 party members' debuff resistance by 20% for 3 turns. I mean, that's a little annoying, right? But it can be cleansed for 1. And I'm pretty sure they can also neg it if they have like high enough magic resistance or they have like debuff immunity. I'm pretty sure they can neg it with those, so it's not the biggest deal. Like, if he were lowering their attack or he was lowering their defense, that would be felt a lot more than him just lowering their debuff resistance, but you can kind of get around it. So overall, I wouldn't stress too much about that demerit. Like, as far as demerits go, this is definitely on the softer side, but I feel like it's more than worth it because he's getting Pierce invincibility, meaning he's always going to be able to get around an enemy's dodge, enemy invincibility. The only thing that can really stop him is solemn defense, because when we get to his NP, we'll talk about that. Literally nothing can escape this dude. He's going to hit you for some big damage. And 50% crit damage is nothing to scoff at. Like, remember, that's Waver's crit damage buff. That's really, really solid. And I know that I take a fat dookie all over Caskill all the time and people get really mad, but Caskill is already shaping up to be like a really good partner for Kerry, because he's going to take that crit star generation that Kerry's already really good at and like shoot it through the moon. He's going to give him an attack buff, which is really nice. He's going to give him a higher uptime on the arts buff, because Caskill's like skill gives an AoE party-wide like arts buff, right? And then his NP is going to be raising all allies defense and critical damage, which like Kerry would want those as well. Like, and he's going to be really exemplifying everything that Kerry wants to do and like skyrocketing him to like his best performance. So I think this is like the first time where like I look at a servant, I'm like, you know what, Caskill is really good with this guy. Like, this dude specifically makes a really good combo. Just keep in mind that if you're gonna use Caskill, because he doesn't have a battery or like a super easy way to just bam charge his NP immediately, you probably want to go with like a scope or something higher so you can kind of fire off your NP immediately, so you can start getting those Caskill NP buffs really early on in the fight, and then you could really start buffing up Kerry, right? But then finally there is Kerry's utility skill. This is kind of what I was talking about. It's a targetable taunt for 1 turn, and then it drops 15 stars all on a 5-turn cooldown. Now, I think dropping the stars is very good, because say Kerry, you know, maybe he dropped like 37 stars that turn, and then, you know, he pops this skill and then he's able to get some extra stars. And then this can also be used as a way to kind of cycle out buffers. Like, say you have a Caskill and a Waver, and Caskill's already dumped all of his buffs and he's on like 1000 HP. You put Scapegoat on that Caskill, get him killed, and then have Castoria or somebody come from the back line to kind of come fill his shoes, and then dump more buffs on the Kerry. It's pretty good. It's just the only problem that I have with it is that it's a 1-turn taunt. So if they don't happen to kill that person in that 1 turn, you're still stuck with them. That's the only problem I have with some of those 1 turns. Like, I really wish it was 3 turns, which again, maybe that's something we could see this get buffed to. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about that skill. Now, his NP is pretty sick. It's ignoring defense just automatically, right? So literally nobody can escape our boy Kerry. Like, you can't escape with high defense, invincibility, or evasion. The only way to escape this dude is to just have solemn defense or something and hope that one of the allies doesn't remove your buffs or something like that. Like, you don't have, I don't know, Kiara with him who's just gonna yeet all of your buffs, right? But then it also reduces the enemy's NP gauge by 1, which is good on art servants because they usually chain their NP, which means you can usually, when using someone like Kerry, and this is why I really liked Galatea's NP when we first got info on it, because you can pretty much successfully keep their NP suppressed, especially if you're pairing them with, like, say a Castoria and Waver build, right? Where Castoria can kind of protect an ally, can protect all allies with their NP. Waver also has an AoE NP drain skill, right? And then you have like Kerry who can also drain on his NP, right? You can pretty much always keep yourself safe because you're either draining the opponent's NP or you're just protecting yourself with someone like Castoria, right? And I really like this addition to his NP. And then the overcharge effect is him reducing their critical attack chance by 10 to 50% for 3 turns. Now, I honestly really wish that like started at a bit of a higher clip. Like, starting at 10% isn't really going to make that like big world of a difference, but say you're going to lead off with, say, like Waver's NP into Emiya Assassin's NP, then that could actually be pretty good because then you're getting like 20% critical reduction. And again, like I always say, like when you start getting into like 1.5 and Lost Belts, the enemies there just love to crit you down. Like, being able to weave some big crits from some of these harder bosses can be a lifesaver sometimes. Newer players do not doubt the power of being able to neg your opponent's crits, because you might have type advantage and then this dude just crits you for like 30k and you're like, bro, I had type advantage and he just one-shot me, man. Like, it can get pretty ridiculous. So don't doubt like these little effects that characters have where they can reduce critical attack chance. Like that is very useful, but I feel like because it's more of a common thing for characters to do, we really like just diminish the value of it. But overall, Emiya Assassin is very, very solid, right? He's a very good pick when it comes to like just slapping an assassin on your team or like trying to focus around like an arts assassin. He can do very good work. The issue is that we have Shiki as a single target like arts assassin, and she's a free NP5 unit. She has a battery. She can do like an insta kill mechanic, right? Like she has her own method of survivability. Like Shiki was just kind of like built different when she came out, and that kind of hurts people's perception of Emiya Assassin. But a lot of newer players aren't going to have Shiki. Like if you're starting on JP right now, who knows when you'll have another chance to get Shiki? And if you're an NA player, dude, you're looking at least like 2 to 3 years. Like if JP, okay, if they put Ryogi Shiki in like the gold Q shop today, like you're looking at least 2.5 years before you're going to be able to have a chance to get her, right? So someone like Emiya Assassin is going to fill that void until she comes around. And then let's not even talk about how hard it might be to get her to NP5, right? So whether they do like a rerun event, like those mini reruns that they did for like BB, so you could try to like get her where they were like, dude, finish Seraph in like 7 days, which that's already like insane to try to finish Seraph in like 7 days to get some of those other free-to-play servants. So just not even considering how hard it is to like get through all that and how much you got to grind. But then they've also kind of toyed around with the idea of just like throwing them in the gold cube shop. And so like who knows how much that's going to cost in there, right? Like what are you going to need, like 15, 25 cubes total? Who knows? So servants like this are going to fill a very good niche, right? Like Emiya Assassin I think is just very, very solid. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about our boy Kerry. Do you like him? Do you think he's kind of mid? Let me know in the comments. Love to hear what you guys have to say. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late guys.